Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. We're on episode 5 already, and um, today we are going to be looking at the world of IoT development.
Okay.
And specifically, we're going to try to untangle 3 terms that I think get misused quite a bit and lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And those are PoC, PoV, and MVP.
Right.
So proof of concept, proof of value, and minimum viable product.
You know, it's surprising how often those get mixed up. And
Yeah.
it really can lead
Yeah.
to some issues.
For sure, especially in a field as, I think, dynamic as IoT.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be using for this deep dive some articles from ThingRex.com
Okay.
to talk about this.
Mm.
And I think this is something that will really help people avoid some of the common pitfalls
Yeah,
of IoT development.
for sure.
Have you ever heard of shiny object syndrome?
Of course, it's that temptation to chase after the coolest new technology without really considering if it solves a real problem or adds any value.
Right, exactly.
Mm.
And in IoT, that could be a pretty costly mistake.
Absolutely.
So where does proof of concept fit into all this? One of the examples that ThingRex uses is imagine learning to drive with a trailer for the first time.
Okay.
The initial focus is just proving that you can handle it.
Right.
It's not about like how much cargo you can carry or
Yeah.
how fast you can go.
Yeah, you're just trying to figure out if you can back it up without jackknifing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I even just do this?
You're not hit anything.
Right. So a PoC is really all about technical feasibility.
It is.
Like, can we make the sensor work?
Yeah.
Can we gather this data? But here's the catch, and this is where that shiny object syndrome comes in.
Yeah.
A PoC doesn't necessarily address the bigger question of, is any of this actually valuable?
Yeah. It doesn't answer the so what question.
Right. So you might end up with this impressive technological feat.
Yeah.
That's basically a digital version of a 10-foot-tall statue of a rubber duck,
Uh-huh.
which is cool. But what's
Yeah.
the point?
Exactly, and that's the potential trap
Yeah.
of a PoC first approach. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Especially in IoT, you can create a complex system that can say, monitor the humidity levels in your houseplant's soil in real time.
Okay.
But if that doesn't actually translate into healthier plants or any tangible benefit,
Right.
what have you really achieved?
It's just data.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we avoid falling into that trap
Yeah.
of building this super advanced system that doesn't actually do anything useful?
Right.
Is that where PoV comes in?
Yeah. Proof of value. That's exactly it. Think of it this way.
Okay.
If you were considering getting into caravan travel, you wouldn't immediately buy the newest, most expensive model.
Right.
You might try renting a used one first to see if you actually enjoy it.
That makes sense. It's like dipping your toes in the water before you take the full plunge.
Yeah,
You're testing the waters of your business idea before you really commit.
exactly. And that testing needs to be as realistic as possible.
Okay.
Just like you'd want to experience the realities of towing and setting up camp and dealing with the quirks of an older caravan, you want to create a PoV that really simulates the actual conditions of your intended IoT solution.
So you're not just theoretically saying, hey, if we could track this data, it might be useful.
Yeah.
You're actually like putting it
Yeah.
to the test in an environment that's
Exactly.
as close to the real world as possible.
Yeah, it needs to mirror reality as closely as possible.
Okay.
And a successful PoV should definitively answer this question. Will this solution provide a tangible benefit to our business?
And answering that question early on, I think, can save a lot of headaches down the line.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to pour time and resources into building something
Yeah.
only to realize like, oh, this isn't actually solving the right problem.
Or it's not solving any problem.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a cool thing.
Okay, so assuming our PoV has demonstrated real value, that's where the MVP comes in.
That's where it comes in the minimum viable product.
So sticking with our caravan analogy,
Uh-huh.
we've tried out the used caravan. We love it, but we're not ready to buy the top-of-the-line model yet.
Uh-huh.
So instead, we find a slightly older model
Yeah.
that still has everything we need to enjoy the core experience of caravan travel.
Yep.
That's kind of like an MVP.
Right? That's a great way to put it. You've established the core value, and now you're focused on delivering it in a way that's functional and efficient.
So it's not about cramming in every possible feature.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot between like essential functionality
Yeah.
and real-world impact.
Precisely. And it's important to highlight that a successful PoV often paves the way for a smooth transition to MVP development.
Okay.
You've already validated the core value, so you can focus on building a solution that delivers it effectively in a real-world setting.
It's almost like a natural progression. And that progression can be a real game changer in IoT, especially with all the tempting new tech. You need a solid framework to guide you towards solutions that truly matter.
So we've laid out the basics of PoC, PoV, and MVP.
Right.
But I'm curious to dive deeper into the practical side of all this.
Sure.
How do we really ensure we're focusing on business value from the very beginning?
Right.
Especially in a field like IoT, where it's so easy to get distracted by the cool factor.
That's a great question. So, in the world of IoT, it's incredibly easy to get caught up in that can we build it mindset.
Oh, yeah.
The technology is so powerful and constantly evolving that it's almost like a playground for innovators.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, who wouldn't be fascinated by, the idea of a smart refrigerator that orders groceries for you?
Right. Or a mirror that analyzes your outfit and suggests accessories.
Exactly.
But as we've been discussing, that focus on the technology itself can sometimes lead us down some dead ends.
Well, it's like the old saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And that's precisely where the PoV mindset comes in.
Okay.
Instead of jumping straight to, can we build it, we need to pause and ask, should we build this?
Right.
And the answer to that question hinges on one crucial factor, business value.
So how do we actually determine whether an IoT solution has real business value?
Well, it starts by asking the right questions. What problem are we trying to solve?
Okay.
How will this solution improve our operations, increase efficiency, or create new revenue streams?
Okay.
And can we measure that impact in a meaningful way?
So it seems like we need to shift our thinking from being purely technology-driven to being more business outcome-focused.
Exactly. And that's a message that ThingRex.com also emphasizes. One of their articles states that proof of concept, PoC, is a very misleading approach. It can give you a false sense of accomplishment without demonstrating real-world value.
So a working prototype doesn't necessarily equal a successful product.
Exactly. You might have a device that can track the temperature of your coffee cup to the 10th of a degree.
Oh.
But if it doesn't make your coffee taste any better or save you any time in the morning,
Right.
it's ultimately a novelty, not a solution.
Okay, so how do we break free from this PoC-centric mindset? How can we make sure we're prioritizing business value from the get-go?
Well, one crucial step is to involve stakeholders from different departments early on.
Okay.
Don't just keep it within the tech team. Get input from the business development side, marketing, sales, even customer service.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's kind of like the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's a perfect way to put it. By bringing in those diverse perspectives, you're more likely to identify potential challenges, risks, and opportunities that a purely technical team might overlook.
And it also helps ensure that everyone is aligned on the goals of the project from the start.
Yeah.
And understands the value proposition.
And this collaborative approach should continue throughout the entire development lifecycle.
Okay.
From the initial PoV all the way to the MVP stage and beyond.
So it's not just about having like a one-time meeting.
Right.
It's about fostering a culture.
It's about a shared understanding.
Yeah.
A focus on the desired outcome.
Because ultimately, the most successful IoT solutions aren't the ones with the most impressive tech specs.
Right.
They're the ones that deliver real tangible value to the business and its customers.
Exactly.
This has been really insightful. I'm wondering, how do we apply these principles to the MVP stage? Specifically, what are some of the key things to keep in mind when building that minimum viable product?
Well, one of the biggest challenges with MVPs is figuring out what minimum actually means.
Yeah.
It's tempting to want to pack in all sorts of features and functionality.
You want to avoid feature creep.
Exactly. And that's where the insights from your PoV become so valuable. If your PoV was well designed, you should have a very clear understanding of what features are absolutely essential for delivering the value you've identified and which ones can be added later.
So the PoV almost acts like a roadmap.
It does.
For the MVP development process.
Yeah. It shows you where you're going and what you need to build to get there.
And this lean approach not only saves you time and resources, but it also allows you to get your product in front of users faster.
Right.
Gather feedback.
And iterate based on real-world usage.
It's like a constant feedback loop where you're learning, adapting, and refining your solution based on what you're observing.
Exactly. And that feedback loop is essential in a field like IoT, where technology and user needs are constantly evolving.
This makes me think that the MVP isn't just like an end goal. It's more like a launch pad for continuous improvement and innovation.
That's a brilliant insight. And that's part of what makes working in IoT so exciting. It's a dynamic and ever-evolving field where the possibilities are seemingly limitless.
I'm curious, What are some of the specific challenges you've seen companies face when trying to shift their thinking from that PoC-focused mindset to one that prioritizes business value?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles I've seen is overcoming internal resistance to change.
Okay.
There can be a deeply ingrained culture of focusing on what's technologically possible
Right.
without always connecting it back to the core business goals.
So it's almost like a mindset shift that needs to happen across the organization.
Exactly. It's not enough for just the leadership team to understand the importance of PoV and business value. That understanding needs to permeate throughout every department involved in the development process.
That makes a lot of sense if you've got engineers that are incentivized to create like the most technologically advanced solution,
Yeah.
but they're not really in lockstep with the business needs.
Yeah.
You could end up with a really impressive product
Right.
that misses the mark.
Exactly. And another challenge is effectively communicating the value proposition to stakeholders who might not be as tech savvy.
Yeah.
You need to be able to explain the benefits of your IoT solution in a way that resonates with people who might not fully grasp all the technical intricacies.
So it's almost like you need to become a translator,
Yeah.
bridging the gap between the technical world and the business world.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a skill that's becoming increasingly valuable in the world of IoT.
It seems like navigating these challenges successfully requires a combination of strong leadership, clear communication, and a willingness to adapt and learn as you go.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that shifting from a PC-focused mindset to a business value-driven approach is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It requires ongoing effort and a commitment to continuous improvement.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. How might shifting your thinking from can we build this to should we build this change your approach to IoT projects?
It's a powerful question, and one that can fundamentally change the trajectory of your IoT initiatives. It encourages you to step back, assess the bigger picture, and ensure that your efforts are aligned with creating real measurable value.
And remember, everything we discussed today is based on insights from articles published on ThingRex.com.
That's right.
If you're looking for more in-depth information and practical guidance on navigating the world of IoT, I highly recommend checking out their resources.
They're a great resource.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights to take back to your own IoT projects.
Yes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep asking the right questions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.